Did you ever think your birthday could reveal something amazing about you? Well, get ready, because it does. Your birthday isn't just a day for cake and presents. It's actually a key that unlocks secrets about your spiritual self. That's right. The day you were born can tell you a lot about who you are deep down inside. It's like having a special code that helps you understand yourself better. And today, we're going to crack that code together. By the time we're done, you'll see your birthday in a whole new light. You might even start to understand why you do certain things or why you're drawn to particular ideas. It's not just about horoscopes or zodiac signs. This is something much deeper and more personal. We're talking about your spiritual archetype, a kind of spiritual personality that shapes how you see the world and how you act in it. So, are you ready to discover something amazing about yourself? Are you curious to find out what your birthday says about your spiritual side? Well, stick around, because we're about to go on an exciting journey of self-discovery. Trust me, after this, you'll never look at your birthday the same way again. Now, let's talk about these spiritual archetypes. Don't worry if that sounds complicated. It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Think of spiritual archetypes as different roles we play in our soul's journey through life. It's like being in a big play, but instead of acting out a character, you're living out a certain spiritual energy. Imagine you're in a group of friends. One of you might be the peacemaker, always trying to keep everyone happy. Another might be the adventurer, always ready to try new things. In the spiritual world, it's kind of like that. Some people might be natural healers, while others are born teachers or leaders. These are all examples of spiritual archetypes. Knowing your spiritual archetype is super helpful. It's like having a map of your inner self. This map can show you your strengths, the challenges you might face, and even give you hints about your life purpose. When you understand your archetype, suddenly a lot of things about you start to make sense. Maybe you've always felt drawn to helping others, or you've always loved solving problems. Your archetype could explain why. But here's the really cool part. Your birthday is the key to finding out which archetype you are. It's like each of us gets a special spiritual birthday gift, a unique energy that shapes who we are and how we interact with the world. And the best part? You don't need to be a spiritual expert to figure it out. Your birth date holds all the clues we need. Understanding your spiritual archetype isn't just interesting. It can really help you in your daily life. It can guide you in making decisions, help you understand your relationships better, and even give you ideas about what kind of career might suit you best. It's like having a personal guide to navigating life's ups and downs. So, are you getting excited to learn about your own spiritual archetype? Well, hang on, because we're about to dive into how your birthday reveals this fascinating aspect of yourself. Now, let's get to the heart of it. How exactly does your birthday connect to your spiritual archetype? Well, it's all about the energies that were swirling around when you came into the world. Each month of the year has its own special vibe, its own unique spiritual energy. And when you're born, you soak up that energy like a sponge. Think of it like this. The year is a big wheel, and as it turns, different spiritual energies come into play. Some months are full of fiery, active energy. Others are more about reflection and going inward. And your birthday? It's like a snapshot of where that wheel was when you arrived on the scene. For example, people born in the spring months often have energies that are all about new beginnings and growth. They might be natural innovators or have a gift for starting fresh projects. On the other hand, those born in the fall might have energies that are more about harvest and reflection. They could be great at wrapping up projects or seeing the big picture. But it's not just about the month. The exact day can make a difference too. Even people born in the same month can have different archetypes depending on whether they were born at the beginning, middle, or end of the month. It's like each day has its own special flavor that adds to the mix. Now, you might be wondering, what about people born on the same day as me? Are we all the same? Not at all. While you might share some core traits, remember that we're all unique individuals. Your archetype is just one part of who you are. It's like a foundation that you build on with your experiences, choices, and personal growth. Understanding this birthday archetype link can be really eye-opening. It might explain why you've always felt a certain way or been drawn to particular things. Maybe you've always loved being in nature, or you've always had a knack for understanding people's feelings. Your birthday archetype could be the reason. But here's something important to remember. Knowing your archetype isn't about putting yourself in a box. It's more like understanding the tools you were born with. Some of us were born with hammers, others with paintbrushes, and some with both. Knowing your tools can help you use them better, but it doesn't limit what you can do with them. As we go through the different archetypes, try to keep an open mind. You might find that you relate to more than one, and that's totally okay. We're complex beings, after all. The goal is to understand yourself better, not to squeeze yourself into a single category. So, are you curious about what your birth month might say about you? Are you ready to uncover the spiritual gifts you were born with? Well, get ready, because we're about to explore some of the most common spiritual archetypes and how they relate to different birth times. You might just discover something amazing about yourself. Remember, this journey of self-discovery is all about understanding and appreciating yourself better. It's not about changing who you are, but about recognizing and celebrating your unique spiritual gifts. So, let's dive in and see what your birthday reveals about your spiritual self. Now, you might be wondering, how can I use this information in my everyday life? Well, that's the beauty of understanding your spiritual archetype. It's not just interesting information. It's a practical tool for living your best life. Knowing your archetype can help you make decisions that align with your true self. For example, if your archetype is all about creativity and expression, you might find more fulfillment in a career that allows you to use these gifts. Or if your archetype is about nurturing and caring for others, you might realize why certain types of work or relationships feel so rewarding to you. It can also help you understand your strengths and challenges better. Maybe you've always had a knack for solving problems, or perhaps you've struggled with being too sensitive. Your archetype can shed light on why these traits are so strong in you, and give you ideas on how to work with them more effectively. But it's not just about you. Understanding archetypes can also help you in your relationships. When you know that your friend or partner has a different archetype, it can help you appreciate your differences instead of getting frustrated by them. It's like having a user manual for the people in your life. As we go through the different archetypes, try to think about how they might show up in your life. Do you see yourself in any of them? Do you recognize friends or family members? Keeping these archetypes in mind can be like having a new lens to view the world through. Suddenly, you might start noticing patterns and connections you never saw before. And here's a fun thing to try. Start paying attention to people's birthdays. See if you can guess their archetype based on what you know about them. It can be a fascinating way to understand the people around you better. But remember, while birthdays and archetypes can tell us a lot, they don't define us completely. We're all capable of growth and change. Your archetype is like a starting point, not a final destination. You can always develop new traits and skills, no matter what archetype you were born with. So, are you ready to discover the spiritual archetypes? Are you excited to see what your birthday might reveal about you? Well, let's jump in and explore these fascinating spiritual roles. You never know. You might just discover a whole new side of yourself. Let's start with our first spiritual archetype, the visionary. If you were born between January 20th and February 18th, you might just be a visionary. Now, don't worry if that sounds like a big title. It's all about the unique way you see the world. Visionaries are the dreamers and the innovators of the spiritual world. They're often bursting with ideas and have a knack for seeing possibilities that others might miss. It's like they have special glasses that let them see a world full of potential and opportunity. If you're a visionary, you might find that you're always thinking about the future. You're not content with how things are. You're always imagining how they could be better. This doesn't mean you're never happy, though. It's more like you have an inner drive to improve things, to push boundaries, and to explore new territories. Visionaries are often creative thinkers. You might be the person in your group who always comes up with the wildest ideas. Maybe you're an artist, a writer, or an inventor. Or maybe you just have a way of looking at everyday problems from a completely new angle. This creativity isn't just about making art, it's about seeing the world in fresh, exciting ways. Another key trait of visionaries is their independence. If this is your archetype, you probably like to do things your own way. You're not big on following the crowd or sticking to traditions just because that's how it's always been done. You're more likely to forge your own path, even if it means going against the grain sometimes. But being a visionary isn't always easy. Sometimes, you might feel like others don't understand your ideas. You might get frustrated when people can't see the possibilities that seem so clear to you. And sometimes, your big dreams might seem too far out of reach. The challenge for visionaries is to learn how to bring their amazing ideas down to earth and make them real. Think of visionaries like the scouts of the spiritual world. They're out there on the edges, exploring new territories and bringing back exciting discoveries. In everyday life, they're the ones who shake things up, who inspire others to think differently, and who push society forward into new and exciting directions. So, if you're a visionary, embrace your unique way of seeing the world. Your ideas and your vision are gifts that can help make the world a better place. And if you know a visionary, appreciate their wild ideas and their ability to see beyond the ordinary. They just might show you a whole new way of looking at things. Now, let's move on to our second archetype, the nurturer. If your birthday falls between February 19th and March 20th, you might be a nurturer. This archetype is all about caring, compassion, and creating harmony in the world around them. Nurturers are the heart and soul of their communities. They have a natural ability to sense what others need and a strong desire to help and support those around them. If you're a nurturer, you might find that people often come to you with their problems or when they need a shoulder to cry on. It's like you have a big, warm, comforting energy that draws people to you. One of the key traits of nurturers is their empathy. They have an incredible ability to put themselves in other people's shoes and really understand how they're feeling. This doesn't just mean they're good listeners, although they often are. It means they can really connect with others on a deep, emotional level. If you're a nurturer, you might sometimes feel like you're experiencing other people's emotions right along with them. Nurturers are often natural peacemakers. They don't like conflict and have a gift for smoothing over disagreements. In a group, they're often the ones who can see all sides of an argument and help everyone find common ground. This doesn't mean they avoid all conflict. Rather, they have a talent for turning conflicts into opportunities for understanding and growth. Another important aspect of the nurturer archetype is their connection to home and family. This doesn't necessarily mean they're homebodies, but rather that they have a strong sense of what home means. They're often the ones who create warm, welcoming spaces where everyone feels comfortable and cared for. This could be a physical home, but it could also be a classroom, a community center, or any place where people gather. Nurturers also tend to have a strong connection to nature and the cycles of life. They often have green thumbs or a love for animals. This connection to the natural world feeds into their nurturing nature, as they understand the importance of care and growth in all living things. But being a nurturer isn't always easy. Sometimes, nurturers can get so caught up in caring for others that they forget to take care of themselves. They might struggle with setting boundaries or saying no when they're stretched too thin. The challenge for nurturers is to remember that they need care and nurturing too. In everyday life, nurturers are the glue that holds communities together. They're the ones who remember everyone's birthdays, who always have a kind word to share, and who create spaces where everyone feels welcome and valued. They're the teachers who go the extra mile for their students, the friends who always know when you need a hug, and the coworkers who make sure everyone feels included. So, if you're a nurturer, embrace your caring nature. Your ability to create harmony and support others is a beautiful gift. And if you know a nurturer, make sure to show them some care in return. They might need it more than they let on. Let's move on to our third archetype, the warrior. If your birthday falls between March 21st and April 19th, you might be a warrior. Now, don't think this means you're all about fighting. The warrior archetype is really about courage, determination, and standing up for what's right. Warriors are the brave hearts of the spiritual world. They have a strong sense of justice and aren't afraid to speak up when they see something wrong. If you're a warrior, you might find that you're often the first to jump in when someone needs help, or the one who stands up to bullies. It's like you have an inner fire that drives you to take action. One of the key traits of warriors is their courage. This doesn't mean they're never afraid. Everyone feels fear sometimes. What makes warriors special is their ability to face their fears and do what needs to be done anyway. In everyday life, this might show up as being willing to try new things, speak up in difficult situations, or take on challenges that others might shy away from. Warriors are also known for their determination. When they set their mind to something, they go after it with everything they've got. This can be a real superpower, helping them achieve goals that might seem impossible to others. If you're a warrior, you might find that you have a never-give-up attitude that helps you push through obstacles and keep going when things get tough. Another important aspect of the warrior archetype is their protective nature. Warriors have a strong instinct to defend others, especially those who can't defend themselves. This might show up in all sorts of ways: standing up for a friend who's being treated unfairly, volunteering for causes you believe in, or even choosing a career where you can help protect people or the environment. Warriors also tend to have a lot of energy and enthusiasm. They're often the ones who get everyone else excited about a project or an idea. This energy can be infectious, inspiring others to take action and make positive changes in their lives and communities. But being a warrior isn't always easy. Sometimes, warriors can be too quick to jump into conflicts or might struggle with patience. They might find it hard to sit still or to deal with situations where they can't take direct action. The challenge for warriors is to learn when to fight and when to step back, and how to channel their energy in productive ways. In everyday life, warriors are the ones who make things happen. They're the activists fighting for important causes, the friends who motivate everyone to get moving, and the co-workers who aren't afraid to speak up in meetings. They're the ones who see a problem and immediately start thinking about how to solve it. So, if you're a warrior, embrace your courage and your drive to make a difference. Your energy and your willingness to stand up for what's right are incredible gifts. And if you know a warrior, appreciate their bravery and their passion. Just maybe help them remember to take a breather now and then. Remember, whether you're a visionary, a nurturer, a warrior, or any other archetype, each one has its own unique strengths and challenges. The key is to understand and appreciate your natural gifts, while also working on balancing out any potential downsides. And of course, we're all complex individuals. You might find that you relate to aspects of different archetypes, and that's totally okay. As we continue to explore more archetypes, keep an open mind and see which ones resonate with you. You might discover new aspects of yourself that you never realized before. And remember, understanding your archetype isn't about putting yourself in a box. It's about recognizing your unique spiritual gifts and learning how to use them in your everyday life. Now that we've explored some of the spiritual archetypes, you might be wondering, okay, this is interesting, but how do I actually use this information in my life? Well, that's a great question, and the answer is, in lots of ways. First off, knowing your archetype can help you understand yourself better. It's like having a user manual for your own personality and spiritual gifts. If you've ever felt confused about why you react to things in certain ways, or why you're drawn to particular activities, your archetype might provide some answers. For example, if you're a visionary, you might finally understand why you're always coming up with new ideas, even when others tell you to be more realistic. Understanding your archetype can also be super helpful when it comes to making decisions. When you're faced with a choice, you can ask yourself, does this align with my archetype's strengths and values? If you're a nurturer, for instance, you might find more fulfillment in a job that allows you to care for others, rather than a high-pressure sales position. Or if you're a warrior, you might be happiest in a role where you can actively work to make positive changes. Another great way to use this knowledge is in your relationships. When you understand your own archetype and learn about others, it can help you appreciate and work with differences better. Maybe you're a visionary dating a nurturer. Knowing this can help you understand why your partner might prefer cozy nights at home while you're always wanting to try new adventures. Instead of getting frustrated, you can find ways to balance both your needs. Here's a simple tip to help you connect more with your archetype's energy. Try setting aside a little time each day to do something that aligns with your archetype strengths. If you're a warrior, you might spend a few minutes standing up for a cause you believe in, even if it's just sharing information on social media. If you're a nurturer, you could make it a point to check in on a friend or family member each day. These small actions can help you feel more in tune with your natural spiritual gifts. It's also important to think about how your archetype shows up in your everyday life. Do you see it in the way you approach problems? In the kinds of books or movies you're drawn to? In the way you interact with your friends or coworkers? Taking some time to reflect on this can give you some really interesting insights into your behavior and motivations. Remember, though, that knowing your archetype isn't about limiting yourself. It's about understanding your starting point, not setting your final destination. You can always develop new skills and traits, even if they don't come naturally to your archetype. In fact, working on your archetype's potential challenges can be a great way to grow and become more well-rounded. So, take this knowledge and run with it. Use it to make choices that feel right for you, to understand others better, and to appreciate your unique gifts. Your archetype is like a special tool you were born with. The more you understand it, the better you can use it to create a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. Now, here's something really cool about spiritual archetypes. They're not always clear-cut and simple. In fact, most of us are a mix of different archetypes. It's like we're all unique recipes, with different archetypes as the ingredients. Some might be the main flavor, while others add subtle notes to our personality. You might be thinking, wait a minute, I thought I was just supposed to be one archetype based on my birthday. Well, your birthday can point to your main or dominant archetype, but it's totally normal and even common to feel connections to others too. Think of your birthday archetype as your spiritual starting point, but not your whole story. Why does this happen? Well, we're complex beings with many facets to our personalities. Plus, as we grow and have different experiences, we might develop traits of other archetypes. For example, someone born as a visionary might develop strong nurturer traits after becoming a parent, or a natural warrior might discover a talent for creative thinking, tapping into some visionary energy. This mixing of archetypes is actually a really good thing. It makes us more balanced and helps us adapt to different situations. Imagine if you were 100% warrior all the time. You might be great in a crisis, but you might struggle with more peaceful, routine days. Having a bit of nurturer mixed in can help soften those warrior edges when needed. It's also important to remember that we can express different archetypes at different times in our lives. Maybe in your career, your warrior side comes out strongly as you fight for causes you believe in. But with your family, you might be more of a nurturer. Or perhaps you're mostly a calm nurturer, but in times of stress, you tap into your inner warrior for strength. So, if you're feeling confused because you relate to more than one archetype, don't worry. It's not only okay, it's actually great. It means you have a rich, multifaceted spiritual self. You have access to a variety of strengths and perspectives, which can be super helpful in navigating life's challenges. Here's a fun exercise. Think about the different areas of your life: work, family, hobbies, friendships. Do you see different archetypes showing up in these areas? Maybe you're a visionary at work, always coming up with new ideas, but more of a nurturer with your friends, always there to lend a listening ear. Recognizing these different aspects can help you appreciate the complexity of your own personality. Remember, the goal of understanding archetypes isn't to put yourself in a box. It's to recognize and celebrate all the different parts of who you are. So embrace your unique mix of archetypes. It's what makes you, well, you. All right, now it's your turn. We've talked about these fascinating spiritual archetypes, but now I want to hear from you. What's your birthday? Do you feel like the archetype we discussed for your birth date matches who you are? Maybe you're nodding along, thinking, wow, that's so me. Or maybe you're scratching your head, feeling like it doesn't quite fit. Either way, I want to know. Drop a comment below with your birthday and let us know if you think your archetype fits you. And hey, if you feel like you're a mix of different archetypes, tell us about that too. It's always so interesting to see how these spiritual concepts play out in real life. Maybe you're a January baby who totally relates to the visionary archetype. Or perhaps you're an April-born warrior who's surprised to find you have a strong nurturing side too. Whatever your experience, sharing it can help all of us understand these archetypes better. And don't just keep this to yourself. Why not ask your friends or family about their birthdays and see if their archetypes seem to fit? It can be a fun way to start some really interesting conversations. You might learn something new about the people in your life. Remember, there's no right or wrong here. If your archetype doesn't seem to fit, that's totally okay. We're all unique individuals, and these archetypes are just one way of understanding our spiritual selves. The most important thing is that this gets you thinking about who you are and what makes you tick. Oh, and here's a little teaser for you. In our next video, we're going to dive deeper into each archetype's special gifts. We'll talk about the unique strengths each archetype brings to the table and how you can make the most of them in your everyday life. So if you're curious to learn more about your archetype, or maybe one you feel drawn to, make sure you don't miss it. So come on, let's get this conversation started. Share your thoughts, your experiences, your questions. I can't wait to hear from all of you. And who knows, you might just help someone else understand themselves a little better too. Wow, what a journey we've been on today. We've explored the fascinating world of spiritual archetypes and discovered how our birthdays can reveal so much about our inner selves. From the visionary dreamers to the nurturing caregivers to the courageous warriors, we've seen how each archetype brings its own special gifts to the world. But remember, knowing your archetype isn't about putting yourself in a box. It's about understanding your natural strengths and tendencies and using that knowledge to live a more fulfilling life. It's a tool for self-discovery and growth, not a rigid label. We've learned that while our birth date can point us towards our dominant archetype, many of us are beautiful blends of different archetypes. This mix is what makes each of us unique and helps us navigate the complex world we live in. The real magic happens when you start applying this knowledge to your daily life. Maybe you'll find new ways to tap into your archetype strengths at work. Or perhaps you'll understand your relationships better by recognizing the interplay of different archetypes. Whatever it is, I hope this knowledge empowers you to embrace your authentic self more fully. And let's not forget, understanding archetypes isn't just about ourselves. It's also a powerful tool for developing empathy and appreciation for others. When we recognize that everyone has their own unique spiritual gifts, it can help us build stronger, more understanding relationships and communities. So what's next? Well, I encourage you to spend some time reflecting on what you've learned today. Pay attention to how your archetype or archetypes show up in your life. Try out some of the tips we discussed for connecting with your archetype's energy. And most importantly, be open to discovering new things about yourself. Remember, this is just the beginning of your journey with spiritual archetypes. There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to understand about ourselves and others. So keep that curiosity alive. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of birthdays and spiritual archetypes. I hope you found it as fascinating and enlightening as I have. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, don't forget to like and subscribe. And hey, why not share this video with a friend? You never know. You might just help them unlock some amazing insights about themselves too. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep embracing the beautiful, unique spiritual being that you are. Your birthday has given you some amazing gifts. Now go out there and share them with the world.